Wednesday, March the 27th. I just welcome the class. This session's being recorded. We're going to be commencing class number 11. This is week number 12. We have a very fun, the latter part of the semester with doing some very interesting things with Photoshop, covering a lot of the web stuff. So we're gonna keep going forward with the new material that we're venturing into here. All right, so let me switch the camera over and let's get started. See if you can share my screen here. So let me know if you can see my screen, everyone. Everyone's good? Give me a quick thumbs up or something there. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, excellent. So here we are. This is module number 12, but we're 10 and 11 actually. So we're still kind of working with this module here. Let me just dive into this one. I want to also make sure it's available to you. This is an important one here. Right. So I believe we did this last week, so we're going to move on to this one now. Even if we finish ahead of schedule, it's good because in the last class, usually we used to do presentations. I believe you're going to be doing the presentations in a different class now. You might not even do it in my class. So if anything, we'll just have like a work period or whatever we have left to do with our time. It's good to do like a review and things like that. I'm sure we'll find good use of our time. Let me just quickly recap what we covered. We had some web image sources. We had a web Photoshop wireframe file, just to show you quickly what that one looked like. And then we'll just continue from that point onwards. Gonna just hit save. Right, give me 1 second here. All right, there, just have to mute this stuff for a second. So this was like an example that I had uploaded, but I think we did a much better job and a thorough layout of this wireframe model in Photoshop. Let's quickly open it up here. Right, so this was class number 10. So we compared how important these wireframe models are, especially when you're doing the website designs and you're on the front end design role. And even if I go back like a decade, even more than that, things haven't changed much in terms of the planning and the structure of the websites. The only difference is the devices we have now, like the mobile devices. Of course, the smartphones were a big revolution just over 10 years ago, of course. Before that, smartphones weren't that, big of a deal when it comes to websites that were strictly made for like desktop sizes. But now you have to think of responsive options. This is why we're kind of segueing into not just making websites for the browser, but also for the mobile phone, for the tablets and other medias. This is like a CNN example of the website I showed you last time. The New York Times and other, small to big websites. The point is you create the wireframes, okay? Whether it's a grayscale wireframe, you keep it nice and simple, you do the structure, and then what you do after is you implement the color scheme and the image sources. So we have a very nice video I uploaded from last week. So I hope you find that very helpful because it covers all this. I think we used Amazon as an example, but we I think took it a step further and maybe switched that up a little bit. That was just a comparison of sizes and stuff. I believe we did something like this. For me to make it look like that, all I have to do is add the little details, of course. Maybe add more buttons and links on top of the menu bar, put a search engine, put some other details over here. I mean, honestly, if we spend another hour or so, I'm sure we can mimic the same design of Amazon or any other website. for that matter, and make it happen. Okay, and that's how easy it is. Once you know the software, you can pretty much build anything. And then we build an actual, like an actual JPEG to show our clients what the website might look like. This is where we, invest the time to deliver the design. And once that gets approved, then we start creating an HTML, CSS, perhaps maybe some JavaScript and the other languages that are important. All right. So that was a pretty nice class. We covered all this. And just open up where we left off, because I'm not going to start this from scratch, or rather continue and show you some additional things that are important for today. And I'm going to use that same file, and I'm going to make these also visible to you. So I'm going to make this visible and make this visible here. And next week we'll get into motion design. And the week after that, we're doing, that's class 14. Yeah, we're ahead of schedule here, guys, for sure, which is good. It's a good thing because of the presentations. This is a link that I have for you. Okay, this link basically gives you this great tutorial on how to incorporate image assets for the websites. Okay, so that's going to be right around this area here. So I'm going to show you how that works. And this is the file that I opened. All right, let me just download this one now. So you can access this module number 12. I'm going to save this on the desktop as well. Website assets and mockup and design. Let's also look at that one. So this is just another design that we did before, another example of Photoshop layout. Um, so we can either use this one or we can use last week's one. Maybe we can use this one just to switch it up a little bit. Nonetheless, they're pretty similar. They're designed the same way we took the approach from last lesson. This is the generated assets, which is important. Oh, look, it's a music band website, right? This is another example of how you can build these layouts and then produce the assets that we have here. All right, so I have some files for you to work with. You can use those samples if you like. Just have to simply download these two files. But before that, I want to cover some other important material that kind of goes in line with this class. We're kind of segueing between 11 and 12. They're very similar. This is why sometimes I like to make sure I cover all my angles and all the important parts of this tutorial here. Okay, so we're gonna make sure we comb it right through. So from what I see here, we covered a good portion of this. One thing I want to show you also is how to slice the website before we get into the generating assets. Okay, so it's going to be pretty much these two here. I'm looking for one specific file that I thought was here. I just don't see it. I just don't see it here, guys. But I will find it and I will show it to you. Okay, just to show you how intense some of these websites can get when it comes to the designing. Let me see if I can find an older file. Give me 1 second here. See this in this folder. Yeah. I don't see it either. Yeah. You know what? It's okay. I'll find it for you after. I got some professional templates I wanted to show you with some like a lot of structuring and stuff in Photoshop. I'll come across it a little later. I have to dig into my other hard drive. From time to time, what I do is I clean up my computer and I have a lot of redundant files I gotta basically take care of here. So no worries. I'll show it to you after. Basically, it's more like an advanced layout design of a website in a more larger scale, like it's like a restaurant website or another website. And you can see how, how intense some of these procedures get with the organization and the layouts and things like that. So I will show you those examples, okay? In the meantime, let's stick with the subject here. So let's continue. Grab these two files. If you want to open up the, even this one, if you have it with you, okay, this one's fine. This is from last week, but let's work with some fresh layouts. Perhaps we can download this one. So if you're following me right now, okay, we are going to dive into this segment here because I believe I covered everything in this 10 and 11, although 11 is kind of today as well. Download this file here. Okay, so this one, I already clicked on that. So it's homepage mockup version 3. It looks like this. So this is our example. And the website assets, that's just another example of how to generate what we're going to do. Okay, so let's get to this one and we'll continue. Oh, and the link, I wanted to show you that link too. This link here that I just explained, I do apologize for the way it's um, set up here. It should have been a separate file. Sometimes when I transfer courses from one semester to another, it does this. You ready for this little trick? Okay. See where my hand is here? That's why I'm moving my mouse a lot, just so you can kind of focus on what I'm doing. Usually if I'm not moving it, it's hard to focus on my positioning. If you double click on this area here where it looks like a hyperlink, if you double click on that link, if you copy it, if you open up a new tab, if you paste that link there, good, it's still up there. Yay. All right, this is 2022. I know it's a little outdated, but it still works. It's still the same thing as it is today. Hasn't changed much. This is a whole tutorial on generating image assets from layers or layer groups to HTML. Okay, so this is important. You can download these links and follow these tutorials, but honestly, I'm going to explain that to you with more modern approach over design. So, but this is a good reference. Of course, it is because it shows you how you can generate image assets from your layout that you do in Photoshop to your HTML semantic website. What you have to do is append the appropriate file extensions. And the way you do that is by putting an extension on the layer. So you see how you have your layers right here set up. So if you want to perhaps have one of those layers to become a logo or an image or a GIF or any of these image formats, even SVG. SV, SVG supports scalable vector graphics. So if you have like a logo, most logos now on some websites are SVG files because they're scalable. That means when you respond, when you have a responsive website and it scales to different views, it'll give you an undestructive logo. It'll always look nice no matter what. It's like an EPS. EPS stands for encapsulated postscript. It's another way that you can convert files from Illustrator to like create outlines and create a logo from that. Fonts are also based on PostScript. That's why when you print type, like if you print your resume, even from Microsoft Word, the type comes out nice and clear on the printer because it's a PostScript printer. It uses PostScript fonts. And that's why PostScript fonts versus bitmap fonts. And bitmap fonts are more like for web. PostScript fonts are mostly for printing. And this is how you can differentiate all these different things. So these extensions are important because if you apply these extensions at the end of the layer, you can definitely export those layers as image files. And this is what makes this technique very suitable and quite impressive when it comes to converting your designs for HTML. Okay, like ellipse.gif. So this is just an example. I will demonstrate how this is done on my Photoshop file. I'm just giving you a quick briefing to show you some of the variations that you can include as you do this. So multiple assets, you can just name them A, B, and C. And then there's a subfolder you can create. I'm just looking for anything new. I think it's the same stuff. You can control the quality of the JPEG. So if you put like 5, it means 50%. That means the JPEG will be 50% quality, which means it'll be still not bad, but not as good as you expected if it's 100%. Because by default, I think it's 90%, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes it's 100, but I believe it's 90%, which is the default is good. That I like creating. Sometimes I stick with the default formats. A PNG goes from 8-bit to, there's also 16-bit, but it skips to 24 and 32. 8-bit only supports hundreds of colors because 8-bit is 256. 16-bit or supports thousands. 24-bit supports millions, and 32 supports like millions as well. All right, so this is how you can kind of control all these different variables. You can also control dimensions. You can change different units, like 300 millimeters times 20 centimeters. And that's what you're going to get when you export this layer as a GIF. It'll be that exact size. So it's amazing how many things you can do by this configuration here. And this is all done in Photoshop, and it gives you the power to generate image assets from layers. Okay. So let's go ahead and explore this now in a practical sense and see how we can apply these techniques. Again, the link is here under module number 12. This is week 12, but it's still class 11. So just bear with me here with these numbers. I know they get confusing after the week 8 break. But if you double click on this link here, and if you copy and paste that into this tab, it'll open up this window that I'm looking at. So if you do that, you'll have no problems accessing this file. Okay. All right. So I also believe that talked about the next big project. You have the composite assignment that you have to do, which is part of your other classes as well. I believe you're doing a band website. Okay. So that's under your composite assignments. So make sure you um, read all the details for that one. I don't know why it's doing the 24th, guys. I really messed up that week. It's honestly due on the last week is the 17th. So please, I'll just correct that right now so you're aware of it. So it's on the 17th. I think I went a week forward there for whatever reason. It gets a little confusing when you're counting the weeks like 10 weeks beforehand. So for this one, you're going to be creating like a website basically in Photoshop. The same techniques I'm showing you, you're going to apply them on your design. I'm looking for layer organization and management. I'm looking for image placements with the frame tool. Same thing I showed you last week. I will review it this week. It's important that I show you a different way of using it, or maybe cover some other loopholes or techniques along with it. The more importantly, I'm going to show you how to generate image assets, which is something I haven't shown you yet, which I'm going to do today. And of course, to create multiple artboards. So upon all this, you're going to be creating a website in Photoshop and exporting it for HTML. This is your actual PDF. So if you open that up, it just gives you just like a basic criteria of how this will be done. So in addition to these things that I mentioned, okay, I want to see things like, layer masks, right? Show some image transparency. Like, don't just put a bunch of rectangles in there. Do some nice stuff with masks and selections that you've done in the past, which, goes to the next point. Various selection methods are to be demonstrated, right? It's nice to see that. Generation of image assets. So this is the new stuff that I pointed out earlier, website for coding the project. Layer styles are optional, but could help with the overall presentation. Sometimes you can't do some of these styles in CSS, and let's say you want a title that punches right out from the header. This is when styles can come in handy to have more dominant presence on some parts of the website. Complete mockup, including the homepage along with navigation, etc. So I want to see like some other pages along with the homepage to have that together. And good luck and have fun. Okay, so it's basically a little bit of everything I want to see that you've learned so far, mostly for web, and apply that on the actual website. Okay. All right, so that's your next. This is doing the 17th, so it is like the last day of school and the last week of school, and I think we have about a good 3 weeks from today. Okay. All right. Any questions, guys? I know I'm recording the session. You can ask me later if you want, but I think that's pretty straightforward. Today's lesson will help you maybe better understand how this other deliverable is executed. So I'm going to get to that in a moment. All right. But as far as now, let's just look at this file here. If I open it up, it's going to open Photoshop. All right, this is what we did last week. And the reason why I'm looking at these columns here, because I have to activate my guides. And I did that with a shortcut stroke on my keyboard, which I think you should learn by now if you haven't. It's under, show guides, command, semicolon, okay? So semicolon is a good way to bring up the guides like this, or just press command, semicolon on the keyboard. And I think we went over to do the very popular 12 column layout. And notice how everything is perfectly structured and laid out with these 12 column rule. The reason why we chose the number 12, as I explained to you in the last class, is because it is the greatest common denominator when it comes to like mathematically doing breakdowns of different equivalents. And the lowest number too, right? So 12 is a very generous number that goes into divisibles of, let's say, 6 and 2 and 3 and 4, even 12 itself. So you can see here, you can put like 1, okay? 1 goes into 12. Look, 4 going to 12, like a 4. How many? But they take up 3 columns of space. So these 4 images take up 3 columns individually of equally distributed widths. And if you do the math, like 4 times 3 columns is 12. That's why we did that. All right, same thing down here. We did 3 here on purpose. So 3 times 4 columns each equals 12. You can also do, 6 and or sorry, like 8 and 4 or whatever. As long as the numbers go together, it doesn't have to always divisible. You can always do subtractions as well, and as long as it fits within this grid system, because the grid system, it was what allows us to make this perfect for us to make part of our HTML breakdown, because HTML basically loves this kind of stuff, as you know already, sections and columns and different parts of the website, right? From the nav bar to the header to the main body area to the footer. This is how you basically gauge any website, even if it's like a mobile device as well. All right, so let's now, let's go to this example here. I just want to keep this stuff fresh. Okay, so I'm going to close this one down to the next one. Here I did a logo. Okay, I put a website logo up here. Notice how I keep everything organized. I got the header at the top. So there I kept like my menu. I put the logo here. I put the menu going across, and I put some kind of a background design. And this is the actual artboard. Okay. The next one, I got the hero slider. This is where you do like a image carousel or like image gallery, which is quite popular with a lot of websites when it comes to showcasing different things. It's one image or multiple images. This is the main section. So here you can have some more images and more text that can go with it. And the bottom, you have the footer. That's when you can put your like social media, site maps, and all these other things. Very importantly, you got to keep your website organized like this in folders. And in those folders, you have the contents pertaining to those sections. All right. So this is pretty straightforward, guys. I believe I did I did last week on the video to these images, the way they're inserted, right? This one using the frame tool. Okay. The hero slider, I use the frame tool as well. Okay, but this is like the new tactic that was used, but I want to show you some of the traditional tactics as well. So let's say I want to redo this one here, right? So I'm going to just kind of delete this image. Okay, so I have this frame box tool. So as long as you have the actual the image placement, like the box basically that's going to contain the content, okay? What you do is you put the actual vector shape or rectangle in the area, make sure it's in the appropriate folder. In this case, it's going to be right inside this main section folder. What I'm going to do now is bring in an image. I'm going to bring one from last week here. Maybe I'll bring one of these. I made like a band website design. for another example that we did here. Okay, let's bring this one, for example. So I want to bring that image. Maybe I could have used this one for that one, whatever. I'll use a different one now. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one here, drag and drop, right? So what's going to happen is when you drag and drop an image, it's going to just plop inside your document, right? It's not going to go inside this rectangle, obviously. But when you resize it, right? One quick way to do it, this is before Photoshop came up with this new method called the frame tool. This is like kind of new. Not new anymore, but it was new when it came out like a few years ago. And I was like, what's this tool all about? Well, it's about placing images. And there's a quick short video I played with you last week on how it works. So if you want to watch it again,
the frame tool allows you to create placeholder frames, which can later be filled with placed images. This convenient tool is perfect for planning compositions, organizing your design elements, or creating mockups. To access the frame tool, press K on your keyboard or find it in the toolbar. Click and drag to draw a frame on the canvas. You can add an image to the frame by dragging and dropping directly into the frame. It will automatically scale to fit the frame's dimensions. Both the frame and the image inside can be selected, resized, or rotated together or separately. To select the frame or image independently, use the Move tool. Click to select the frame and double-click to select the image. To replace an image in a frame, simply drag and drop a new image on top of the frame. The new image will automatically scale to fit the frame, replacing the previous image.
Very nice. Okay, so that's a very quick explanation. I really love how this tutorial was done, nice and clean. I'm not happy with all of them, but that one was really well. It just, puts everything into one perspective. So this is the image, okay? This is the rectangle. I'm going to show you what happens before this frame tool came out. What we had to do was basically clip this image and this rectangle by holding Option like this. Holding Option creates like a clipping mask for this rectangle to mask this image. And a clipping mask is a term that derives from Illustrator, but it's also now included in Photoshop. Another way to do it is you click on this image on top of the rectangle. It's got to be directly like this. Right click, create clipping mask. Look, Option Command G. Same thing. I just like to hold Option and do that. Okay, so this is how you can basically do it old school methods. Okay. The new method is basically dragging and dropping in the frame tool. So again, I'm just going to demonstrate that one more time just for review purposes. I'm going to open this up here. Maybe create my my ruler and my grid. Get my columns open as well. Oh, okay. View, show. What are my guides? There they are. Sometimes if you can't see the guides, make sure you click on the artboard, because if you don't and you're trying to get it to visible, it's not going to work until you click on the art homepage, because this homepage became an actual artboard, I believe. That's why. Okay, so I'm just gonna again just hide the columns for now, like that. Command a semicolon. I'm gonna keep the grid open. All right. We're gonna draw a rectangle tool with the frame tool. This is the new method, just like the tutorial explained. You could get the ruler if you want. I mean, when you do this, you don't have to redo this like I'm doing it now, but I just want to make sure it's perfectly dead on, right? So I'm going to start right from here, right to frame tool, and just let go. And if you notice, my snap is on, so that means it snaps to my guides and my layers. So this way it's, perfectly in position with everything that I have. Okay, so that's taking up 1, 2, 3, 4 columns times 3 placements equals 12 overall design. All right, so now that's selected, I'm going to have the frame tool selected like that. Go back over here, drag and drop right inside, okay? And that's just how it works. And all you have is the image being placed inside the rectangle frame. All right, so again, last week, this is what we did. We kept doing it until we got the whole website done. If you want to switch things, it's very easy. Let's like this image over here, for example. This is the image that's located in this layer. So if I want to replace an existing one, I don't want you to think that you have to delete everything and do it all over again. You can simply just drag and drop, but be careful because you have to do it exactly in the position here. So if it's going to replace this image or this frame, I got to do it exactly that way. Let me try this one more time. Oops, let's try it again here. Oh, okay. Is it locked maybe? I'm just going to press delete. Oh, never mind. I think you can drag it on the screen actually, so that works too. All right, so I just dragged it in there. All right. Let's try it again. So I click on this image, drag and drop. Right. So you can just drag and drop. You don't have to necessarily delete it. And then you can place your image accordingly. Now this image is a little smaller than my designated area. So I can always select the image, resize it, basically have it fulfill my entire screen like that. I'm going to hide these guides and um, rulers so you can see everything nice and clearly. And that's how you can just replace images nice and easy. Okay, and drag and drop. So just remember there's two ways, clipping masks, or you can create the new infamous frame tool, which is located here. And again, playing this tutorial shows you how to do it, okay? All right, so quite easy. Once this is all done, what happens next? Okay, now that we know how to do this, and again, last week's video is very important in case you missed it or you didn't watch the class, to learn how to do this from scratch. I did this right from the get-go. I did it in grayscale. I did it with boxes and I did the, guide layout and stuff. And then we came to this conclusion here. And the other example, of course. And we did the new guide layout. Okay, this is how it's done. So basically, that's how we created these 12 columns. I'm not going to do it again because it's just repeating myself back and forth. All right, so now let's move forward with what happens next, basically. So next is we have all these sections, okay, and we want to create a website. And there's two ways about doing this. There's a way to do a mock-up in Photoshop, and Photoshop is actually still, believe it or not, 2024. I thought they would eventually cut it out because it was just confusing people with other HTML, because this is not the new HTML that we use today. Today's new HTML involves responsive design, which I mentioned earlier. The design has to look good on a mobile device, on a tablet, and other medias. Whereas if you're set on doing a prototype for web and you can just do a quick mock-up and show the client what it looks like, if it's like a website, then that's fine. This will work. But don't think for a second that this will replace, learning HTML, because it's not going to work like that. This is only good for presentation purposes. Now, it used to work before cell phones came out and stuff. This was actually, a lot of web designers did use this technique and made websites in Photoshop and made the HTML as well. But it just, didn't really go far when it comes to the editing, the CSS, the styling, and all the other important methods. Okay, so just keep in mind this is for proposals, presentations, prototypes. This is a good method that it's still used today. Okay, so that method that I'm getting at is called the slice tool, because if it wasn't here, I wouldn't show it to you. So this is it right here. Okay, it's underneath the crop tool. Yeah, there's a perspective crop tool as well. You can do things in perspective, right? And it's going to be a flat image for me to show you that, so I'm not going to bother. Just try it on an image and you'll see. It just gives you a perspective crop. It's kind of cool. I hardly used it, but it is what it is, right? Here's the slice tool. Here's the slice select tool. Those are the ones I'm getting at. The way the slice tool works is you can actually slice the website into segments. It's already sliced already, so I'm just going to have to I'm going to undo these slices. I'm going to go to view, clear slices, okay? Pretend I never did them already. And I'm going to get rid of these columns now, so I'm just going to click away, so there's no columns. All right, so what you're looking at here is a clean looking website that's done all in Photoshop in terms of the layout and design. All right, so now what happens is Photoshop has a method built in with the slice tool that gives you the capability to slice this website into segments just so you can prepare a mock-up and serve it up on a server and show the client what it looks like on a browser, which is better than just sending an email. Remember, like we did last week, we did one of these. We did it like a JPEG. Like this is okay, but does this look like a website? Yeah, kind of, but it doesn't look like a website until it's on a browser. If this was on a browser and you can kind of, click on the links and do all that kind of stuff, it'll become like a real website. But right now, this is just an image or a preview of a website wannabe. Okay. So let's, for example, take the next step and convert this into like a half a website. So it looks like a website to an average person that doesn't know any better, they'll think it's a website. Okay. To people like us that are in the industry that know all the little loopholes and the tricks, we know it's not a real website because we can tell a real HTML file from a basic mock-up tables file. So to do that, we're going to use a slice tool and we're going to break this up into the same sections as I pretty much planned earlier with my file here. Okay, I'm just gonna revise this file. I don't like this other thing I put here. I'm just gonna go to revert, revert file. I guess it's I already explained to you the review part of placing images and stuff. So now let's see what happens next. Look over here, and I'm gonna go again under slices, clear slices. I had to clear slices because I had them from last time. That's why. So you're going to see a file like this, and you're going to do a breakdown. The breakdown is the header, the hero slider in this case. You might not have a hero slider all the time, but in this case we do. We have a main section, and that could be text, it could be other images and stuff. And you have the footer. So there's our 4 elements of the website. And of course, those elements have other elements within. This might be a video, this might be an image. I'm going to put a text box here later and show you how to convert the text into CSS and some other nice things that we can do. Okay. But for now, let's start with the slice tool. And the way you start is always at the top corner. Naturally, we all start from the top left corner and we work our way to the bottom right corner. And we do one section at a time. So in this case, I'm going to start right here in the corner. You can even go outside. Actually, can you go outside? Yeah, you can. Okay, good. One other thing I want to mention when you do this, you can't use artboards. Keep in mind, when this technique was first invented, there was no artboards present in Photoshop. Photoshop didn't know what artboards even were. So if you have artboards, unfortunately, this tool will give you a little bit of a problem because it's going to slice outside the area. So in this case, make sure you either flatten this image to, I guess a layer even if you want, or just make sure the artboards are disengaged. All right. I don't see the option here because it's already converted. If it wasn't, then I can make the artboard. Convert the artboard to a file. Maybe I'll do it on this one. I don't know if this is an artboard either. I think I made a point not to make an artboard unless you make multiple pages. So this one also isn't. All right. So anyways, whatever it is, don't worry, because if it's an artboard, you can just right click and convert it to a smart object or take out the artboard. So no artboards when you do slices. And this is not something you want to hand in. This is not a requirement for your next project. This is an added bonus feature I'm showing you on applying your skills for web and Photoshop. It's more like a production tool. I even teach this in the web production techniques class because students learn how to make websites and they want to export images. Like, how do you export this exact image or this thumbnail or this part here in an image format? Because if you need drag and drop stuff in Photoshop, it's all into layers. Well, then how do we export these layers for web? Right? How do we make this a website? That's the main question. So that's where this tool comes in really, really handy. So I'm going to start from here, go all the way across like this. Okay. If you notice, I went from left to right, and this now became a number. It says 01. That means it's slice number 1, and it's even highlighted in blue. Blue means it's considered an active slice. Active slice means it's made or converted in Photoshop. The next one, it says number 2. So basically it's the remainder. It's like cutting a pizza in half. You have one half here and the other half remains, or empty and full or blank or whatever. The gray means it's not really active, it's just the leftover. So for me to make the second slice, I'm going to start at the corner here, right precisely there, and go all the way across this way, down, go all the way across to the right. And I'm going to make this a slice as well. So this is now slice number 2. Now this whole thing becomes slice number 3. But if I want to go and replace these images later for my mock-up and do some other things, then I should consider slicing these images within this third slice, which I will do. So in that case, I'm going to go over here, drag another slice on the top, like that. So this is number 4, and I'm going to cut this one from where it starts. Sometimes if you get this problem here, just start from the bottom corner and go up to the top, like this. So there's one. Here's another one. And another one. Okay. Notice how the numbers start expanding. So 3, 4. This is inactive because I didn't make it. You don't have to make every slice. I'm going to leave this blank or gray. That's fine. It's called a leftover slice. And I don't even have to even make this one, but I just did it to make a point. So 5, 7, 9. What happened to 6 and 8? Well, 6 and 8 are in here. This is number 6. This is number 8. It's the space or the gutter between the images. Again, a leftover slice. So that's okay. They are what they are, right? Let's keep going here. So this is number, whatever number this is, doesn't matter. 14. And this is number, I think it'll be 16 because 15 will be in the middle. So 15, 16, then 17, and you have 18. But I like to keep the footer all one solid slice. So I will slice the footer as well. And that'll be slice number 19. So 19 slices in total. Make this a breakdown of a website integrated in, I guess, even HTML or other things. All right. So now that we sliced the web page, what we're telling Photoshop is that, hey, these images will be, exported separately for the web developers. Because as designers, we did our job. The client approved the website. They want to now put this live on a server and make it serve up a real website. Okay, so our job is now to convert that. So slicing was the older method. Again, it still works. It's still popular. I'll be honest with you. The next method I'll show you is better, and it's the one you have to use for the upcoming composite assignment. So please keep that in mind. This is just another way I'm going to show you because you got to learn both, right? This is also good in other things like production use, right? So whether you're producing stuff for print or you're producing stuff for web, you got to know how production works. In this case, we're slicing these images and we're optimizing them for web. So I'm going to quickly do another save the file. Okay? And I'm going to show you how these slices work. So once you made the slices, you're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. And there's a legacy option, which means it's backwards compatible in older or newer versions. Okay, look at the shortcut. Option, Command, Shift, S. All the shortcuts with the S. Save for Web. Once you click on that, it'll give you a separate menu. A separate menu that includes all your slices, and you can then go ahead and choose each one and propagate the right format that you're exporting for your website. The rule of thumb is this. When you see like limited color, like this one has blue and white, no more than, let's say, 3, 4, even 10, 20 colors that you can visually differentiate with your eyes. Those I would save as a PNG. You can do 8 or 24. I like 8 because it's simple, but 24 is better if you have like transparencies, drop shadows, and other things. So I'm just going to be safe and do 24 because that's millions of colors. So this header right here is a PNG file. Now, realistically, when you create a website, you're going to do this all in HTML. It'll be a real menu. But for now, for us to preview it, I'll save it as a PNG because it's a mock-up graphic of a header with the menu and the nav bar included. This next image down here is a nice pictorial visual image of landscape, some nice mountains with clouds. So this one's going to be a JPEG Okay, most, if not all, photographs are saved as JPEGs in sense of a joint photographic export group. And the quality, I like to keep it high or very high. Okay, this way you get the best of, the most out of the format. Just to compare quality now, I'm going to go to maybe 2UP. 2UP lets you compare one quality in comparison to the next quality. Okay, and then there's also 4UP, which is taking a little too far if you ask me. I like 2UP because it gives you kind of like, let's do 4 and I'll do back to 2, whatever. So what does 4UP mean? So 4UP means this is JPEG, very high quality. This is JPEG, medium quality. This is JPEG, low quality. Okay. If maybe I'll demonstrate this better for the logo because I know we did this in PNG, but I want to really show you what I'm talking about. So let's do this one. When I click on this, all 4UP change to that. And I'm going to change this to a JPEG on purpose. Not that I want to save it as a JPEG. I'm going to zoom in nice and close. Hold the space bar and do this. Zoom in more. All right, there's the difference. You see, this is JPEG, high quality. This is JPEG, medium quality. And this is JPEG, low quality. You definitely don't want to go with the JPEG low quality. Although I know you've seen images on the internet that look like this because they're optimized to such a low quality, and they've been digressed and saved over and over again until they lost all their information. So this is basically not a good idea. Okay, so be careful when you. And this is why I don't want to use JPEGs for logos and titles and stuff. If it's like a graphic, okay. So that's how you can compare, as we dare, different format outputs. I like to stick with 2UP, okay? And this one really gives you the comparison to the work file to the image file. So for this one, as I said, I like to use PNG, 24, even if it's 8, okay? But you're probably going to wonder, well, why do they even bother saving as a, as a JPEG? Let's go back to JPEG. Why even bother doing JPEG low quality? Like, why is it even there if it sucks so bad, right? If it's, always bad like that. Well, because the size, okay? The size will be only, well, 8 megs is the whole image. 9 kilobytes. Do you know how small 9 kilobytes is? Like, it's 9,000 bytes. That's how small it is. So it's super, super, super small, okay? If you go to medium quality, it's 13 kilobytes or 13,000 bytes. Again, very, very small. Think about it. Your phones have like gigabytes of data, okay? We're in the terabyte age, okay? We're talking like small, like kilobytes were nothing. We're talking like 90s, okay? 80s and 90s were bytes and kilobytes. Megabytes came, in the 2000s. Then we had gigabytes, and terabytes just came out like, in the, teens, like 2015, 16, 17. Then we had the terabytes. I mean, look, the government had this stuff before us, but still, terabytes was a dream come true when it came out. Okay, now it's like everywhere. These hard drives all have terabytes. All right, so this is why you gauge this quality. Look, this high quality, but at what price? At 22 kilobytes. Very high quality, 32 kilobytes, and maximum quality, 53 kilobytes. But eventually this stuff does add up. So if you have like 53 here, 100 here, 400 here, 500 here, now you're looking at megabytes, and now you're looking at a slow website. This is why websites take a long time to load, because a lot of these graphics are not optimized properly, and people have a slow internet connection and other factors. So this is why optimization was a very important part in you as a designer optimizing images for web. Okay. So this is why I'm getting, very nitty gritty with this stuff to explain to you. So in a nutshell, stick with this tool here. Just zoom out. Okay. Like I said, this should be a PNG because of the nature of the design. It's strictly, blue and white. It's only 15 kilobytes, super small. This is a nice high fidelity image. I'm not going to compromise it with a low quality JPEG, although it'll probably look not bad. It's only 54 kilobytes. If I go to maximum, it's going to be 400 kilobytes. That's a lot. I mean, and if you notice the difference, it's It still looks good. So how about if I go to very high quality? Now it's 200. It's half the size, and it still looks the same. If I go to high quality, 127. Still looks the same. Okay, so you can't tell on images sometimes because of the detail, but if I zoom in closer, you can tell some of the, see the edges and stuff, they become more pixelated. So I like to meet halfway, and I like to kind of go with, I like these two. Sometimes I use very high quality because I mean, let's face it, we're in 2024, okay? Shouldn't be that big of a deal. So go with very high quality, okay? 200K, not bad. We'll go with that, okay? Next one is this one here. Okay, this one's going to be a JPEG as well, not low. We're going to go with very high quality. Do you have to do this one by one? No, you can go shift select with shift all these images because I know they're all images. I can do them all in one shot. I don't have to do one by one, but I did that thoroughly to show you how to, gauge it and stuff. So all these will be JPEG. They're all going to be very high quality, and all five images will be only 200 kilobytes. Very, very small. Okay, so optimizing is the key to having proper websites uploaded. The bottom bar again, it's a simple color thing with some of these, social media icons and stuff. And I'm gonna make that also PNG. So between PNG and JPEG, I did the whole website. I'm not gonna use GIF because I'll use GIF for last when we do animation. That's what GIFs are for, like animated GIFs. Otherwise, PNG is like the more, popular format. Windows bitmap, I guess it works too, but nobody really uses it. It's there for other, includes transparency and other based opacity. But I'll be honest with you, I hardly use Windows bitmap format. These are the most popular ones. Your phone has all JPEGs, okay? Social media uses mostly images too. So these are the ones you're facing. Okay. So when you optimize your entire website, what happens now? You can select the whole thing like this, and you can gauge the whole size to be 524 kilobytes for the whole website of the whole image spectrum. Not bad compared to the 8 megabytes on my work file down here in the left corner. All right, so I'm ready now to export this and see what happens next. This is 1400 pixels, okay? The height is 1512, that's fine. I'm gonna hit the save button. I'm going to go to the desktop and create a new folder. Very important when you do this to keep everything organized. I'm going to call this Web Ready from Photoshop. Okay, so create that. Watch carefully here. We're going to select what format do we want? Images only? Or do we want and the slices that we made? Yes. So all slices or the selected slices. Now I wasn't too keen on selecting slices in case I didn't select all of them. So I'm going to go all slices, images only. Okay. So I'm going to, and yeah, there's HTML as well, only. We probably wondering, what do you mean HTML? Yeah, it'll do HTML. Again, not for responsive measure, but only for um, prototyping purposes. So images only, save. And let's see what happens now in our folder when we open it up. Here it is. It makes a folder called images. Okay. And in that images folder is all the image slices that we made. And look, there's 19. Remember, I have 19 slices. So we have 19 images. This is the PNG that I optimized for the header. This was the JPEG that we optimized for the mountain landscape. This was a spacer, like a white space that was in between. So was this one. This is one of the other images, another spacer, another image, another image. And these are like JPEG images that we optimized. These are all JPEGs. And of course, this one is a PNG. So all this was basically ready now. When you create a website, you just dump all the stuff inside and insert it in your website. And this is how we used to do things even, I mean, I don't want to date myself here, but yeah, I would say almost 20 years ago even. Yeah, this was the thing, okay? It's still the thing. You can see for yourself. You can build a website and these images are perfectly sized for their use. Okay, so it's still a technique that's being used today. Not as popular as the new one, but I can still see it being used in many scenarios, even for other things, not just websites. Anything you can just slice and dice, as we say, and just save it for whatever format you want. Now, let me take it a step further. I'm going to show you how HTML plays a key role into this. Because, yeah, there is a way you can do this also, okay? So if I do the same thing, export, save for web, and I'm going to stick with, well, I already did this. Look, it remembers PNG, JPEG, 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 JPEG. This should be whatever. I think it made it JPEG. Doesn't matter because it's the white spacer. I'm going to go to or optimize. This way it just minimizes my views. It's just what I see is what I get. So PNG, JPEG, 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 PNG. Very good. You don't have to select nothing. Just hit save. If you still want to do it, you can go here and optimize each and every slice because all these little guys are slices, right? So when you hit save, what's going to happen now is I'm going to select something very special. I'm going to select HTML and images, the best of both worlds. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. Now it's going to replace the other images I saved previously. So I'm just going to hit that's fine, replace them, please and thank you. And that's that. So now you're going to end up with a website that has HTML with the images supporting the HTML, just like you would do in your HTML class. So these are like the images or the sources, and this is your HTML, okay? And you want to see what this looks like? Let's double click on it because it'll open up in a browser and it'll look like a real website. And this is why we use this to create concepts. It's a mock-up, right? Does it work? No, obviously, but it looks like a website. Can you make it work? Yes. There's a program called Dreamweaver. I can teach you that in the next 2 hours if you want. And I can make it work like, again, mock-up a website. The only thing that we can do in there is this. When you do this, it has to, optimize to a smaller responsive version, which is not going to work right now because, again, this is only for desktop. We're doing a presentation. And what else you notice? It's not centered. Okay, it just doesn't look like the way it should. But as far as presenting, it'll do the trick. You can say, hey, this is what a website can look like. Now, to take it a step further, since I already went this far, I'm going to open this in brackets. I don't know if you guys are using brackets or Visual Studio for your HTML, but we used to use brackets back in the day, so I'm just going to do that. And you'll see the back end of this HTML website that was made. Okay, and this is what Photoshop did. Okay, so Photoshop did what's called a table. Tables were the first layout models that were used in website design since the 90s. Okay, it's still used today for organizing data structure, so it's still good. However, it doesn't support, it's limited when it comes to responsive design and stuff. So Photoshop used the slices that I made and converted them into tables and made all these little image sources. And this TR stands for table row. TD stands for table data. So every time you have a row, you have remember the row and the 2 columns, the row and the 6 columns. Remember we did by number by 12. So this row had 2 columns and things like that, right? Oh, sorry, this row had 1 column. So this row also had 1 column. And this one had 1 column. And this one had I think 4 columns or 6 columns. So you can see here how many col spans are there. You don't have to worry about this because you're learning this already in a different, more up-to-date English HTML model. But if you roll over the images, look, it'll show you what they even look like. See the spacer here. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm forgetting about the spacers. That's why the math is not adding up. Okay, but these are all images that we're using in our design. So what I want to do here is basically maybe center this. So after this table, this is like the table that holds the whole container of the website. After cell spacing 0, I'm going to put align equals center. Okay, I just wrote this piece of code right here. I'm also going to go in the body color and change it instead of white. I'm going to change it to maybe a color that will match my design. In Photoshop, I can pick up this hexacolor with the eyedropper tool. I can go like this, right? And whatever color this is, I can copy it from here. See? 345388. That's the hexacode color. So if I go here, instead of white, I'm going to put the hexacode. I'll put the number sign for the hashtag. 345388 is the color of that blue that matches my website. So all I did here was basically change the background color. FFFFF was white. Look, it even gives me the blue preview. And I aligned it in the center. So this will just improve my presentation. It'll make it look like more like a realistic website to show to my clients before I get into this stuff and build it all from scratch. So I'm going to hit Command S, save, close this down, back to my, HTML file. And when I upload this on a server, I can even have like a subdomain or something. And just when the clients click on the link, what they'll see is they'll see this. Okay. And I can even take it as far as navigation and basic links and showing all this stuff and making this look like a real, pretty much mock-up of a website. Better than showing them a JPEG preview, right? Another thing is these are all slices. You see how this is all sliced. Look, this is sliced, right? Because if you go to some other websites, they have a similar, kind of structure set up. Obviously with the new HTML now, right? They're all embedded in the background, right? There's some images that you can grab. This is all in the back end here. Apple used to have a lot of these images floating around. Now they're all embedded. Yeah, they're all embedded in the background. Let's see here. For a news website. See, look, there's CNN, for example. You see these images, right? Like a lot of them you can drag, just like the slicing method that we made, not videos.
Or the EU, where they changed the rule.
Okay, so basically, these are all images that are sliced in a very similar fashion that I did here. Again, this is not done in the way I'm showing in Photoshop, but you can see here the code and stuff, how they did it. Right? So it's the same kind of stuff you guys are doing, only it's a lot more complex, I think. Okay, so they're using div tags and things like that. All right, so you get the idea, right? So this is the same thing. It's sliced the same way, and it looks like a website, which you can present it to the client in a more, um, targeted production view, right? So now let's change it to the topic of, so we covered slicing and how slicing can take it up to this far. Now I'm going to tell you what to do. So this is something that you don't have to do this for the assignment, for the composite. What I want you to do is show me the Photoshop file. I want to see this. I want to see you do this, very important. And I want you to be able to do the newer method, which is generating the image assets. And that's exactly what I'm going to do next, okay? So I'm going to use the same example here. I'm going to open the Photoshop file, and I'm going to show you the new way to convert these into sections, okay? So for that, I'm going to just delete all these slices that I made. So go to View, because you can't do both. It's one or the other. So I'm going to basically clear slices. Clear slices means delete them all. All right. Now let's be realistic with this approach. When it comes to the logo and stuff, you're going to, set up the logo, whether in, I don't know, Illustrator or another version of the design that you did. As a matter of fact, I'm going to find it. So there's the logo right here. See the logo? So if I want to put the logo into my website, I'm going to have to put the extension right here. So what I'm going to do now is follow these steps that I mentioned earlier. We're going to generate image assets from layers for the website. So this is the most current method that designers use to generate assets for websites. And I'm showing you the best of both worlds. I did slicing, and you saw the reason why. It looked really good, and it's still feasible and important to know. But this is more modern, and this is what I want you to do for your assignment. So I repeat, this is what I want you to do now for this project. So how do you do this? Is by naming the layers accordingly to generate the image assets to help you with the website. So with this logo, for example, right? See, I'm hiding it and showing it in the visible. I'm going to turn off the columns. I'm going to go to, it says W logo. At the end of it, I'm going to put period, I'll put PNG. I can do also SVG, but you won't see a preview properly. So I'll do a PNG. That means when I generate the image assets, this logo will be exported as a PNG file ready to go on my website. So um, a lot more appropriate of a method, okay, uh, to today's standards. If you want to put this into, let's say, Felice's class. So this will definitely help you with current industry standards, especially when it comes to like individual things like this, because you can put an extension and export the file rather than slice it. And then how do you get rid of this blue background? Okay, so things like that, you're limited. So this is why this is better. Okay, another thing is the menu. That you will definitely have to do in HTML. So Photoshop's not going to help you with that. So I'm going to totally ignore this part. This background might be a color you're going to get. Remember I showed you with the hexacode in HTML? So you're going to create this container in HTML as like a box or a section for the header. So you don't have to even export this as an image. I mean, if you want, you can take this rectangle and save it as a PNG. Okay, just to have it as some kind of an element, if you like. It'll be a background color element. So I called it rectangle.png. And that concludes the header portion of me optimizing or generating the image assets for my website. Okay, next is the hero slider. This is the whole thing. So if I want to include even these little arrows and this little carousel thing, you'll do that in HTML and CSS. So all I want is this image. All I want is this image. It's got the green background. This image is what I need for me to place inside my container in my carousel that I'm going to build in HTML. Photoshop won't do that for you, okay? So for that, I'm going to have to go expand this longer, make this shorter. The heck is this? All right, so I'm going to call this hero banner.jpg. Why? Because I want it to be a JPEG. And notice how I saved it right at the end here. Okay, so that's how that works. Next, the main section. Now, I know I showed you another method before where I placed the image as a clipping mask. For that, you would actually name the clipping mask into the file to be saved. I'll show you that in the other example. As far as these are concerned, they're quite simple. You click here and you name it accordingly. So I'll call this image 01.jpg. I put a 01 because I might have like 99. It'll create a nice naming convention for me. So copy, paste. This will be image 2. Whoops. This is image 3. This is image 4. And of course, you name them, you put the name of the real image, okay? Like shoes 1, shoes 2, red shoes with Nike logo, .jpeg. As better description as you can do it, the better it is for Google search engine, as for SEO, and for your own organizational purposes, okay? So this will be image 1.jpg, image 2.jpg, image 3.jpg, image 4 and so on and so forth. So you put the extension after the layer in order for this to be exported as you see it. No slicing required. So this method does not include slicing. It's just generating the image assets based on your layer organization. You get it? Yeah. So let's do the social media icons. Hey, I'm going to export these social media icons as a set. Now you're going to probably do those individually, and I'm sure there's a CSS code for them, but I'll just do socials PNG. Okay, just so I can save them separately. In the footer, I might want to get this bar as a graphic, some kind of element. So I'll call it footer.png because it's just one color, right? So socials PNG, footer PNG. So I've optimized all my graphical and image elements on my website, and I'm ready to now to show you the next step. Now, just in case you do include some older methods like clipping masks, For that, I'll have to open up the other example. And I had it here. Let's say you did this. This is like, remember I did it last week? You're doing like clipping, you're doing a clipping mask. If you're doing a clipping mask, what you want to do is this image is being clipped inside this container, this pink or fuchsia container. This image is inside the container. In that case, you name the container, okay? You call it whatever, image whatever .jpg. Because this container will basically export the image, whatever's in it. So I would do this container, so on and so forth. Sorry, this container, this container. So all the rectangles that hold the images are the ones that you're putting this exact prefix, which is the file name or the nomenclature with the right extension. Okay, so please remember that because that's how we export this in case you did it this way. But honestly, use the frame tool. It's so much easier and it's more, it's new. It's the thing now, right? So I'm teaching you all the new modern methods that are used today because yesterday was different than what it is today. So the things I taught this class for like, more than a decade now. I've taught this on many levels and we did things differently back then and we're doing things differently right now. But I'll tell you one thing, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is just reinvented, and the same thing happens. The same reason is why you're exporting this is to build a website. Some of the terminologies change, some of the methods are tweaked. The output is the same. A JPEG is a JPEG, a PNG is a PNG, a GIF is a GIF, and that's what makes a website. HTML is HTML. It just evolves with new codes and snippets and new formats to cater to new technology, right? Which is what we're talking about, smartphones and things like that. All right, so now let's see what happens next. We're able to name all these files accordingly, right? JPEG, PNG, right? Right. So now what happens? Well, let's save the file. Let's do a save as, right? Let's save this on the desktop. We'll call it version 3. I'll call it 33 just to kind of differentiate it from the previous one. And it's a Photoshop file. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. And that's going to be saved right over here. It's important to save the file because then Photoshop will know a designated area to save the rest. Okay, I'm just going to delete this one. All my examples that I did today. I'm going to do this one too. Already from Photoshop. This was an example I did, which is good. Generated image assets. I don't need this one. This was just an example that I can use here, and this one I don't need. Okay, so I only need this file here and this file here. Okay. And this was using slices, which I demonstrated earlier. And this is using the image assets method, which I'm doing right now. So I saved it again on the desktop. The reason why I did that is when I go over here and I activate the generate image assets option, what it's going to do, it's going to automatically do just that. It's going to generate the image assets in the same location as my saved Photoshop file, which is right here on the desktop. Let's go ahead and try it. Click it. Notice when you activate it, notice how there's a check mark on. That means you actually did it. If you don't want it to do it again, because they'll keep, let's say you keep working on your file and you change these images and stuff, it'll do a live update. I repeat, a live update, which is incredible. Okay, so whatever you do now, this is communicating with this folder. This folder was just generated a few seconds ago based on me doing this and this. The check mark means this folder is receiving all this information that we do with all these images by saving them in these files. Very, very cool stuff, okay? And now that I'm done, I'm just gonna turn this off. I don't want it to keep depleting my memory. So I'm gonna just turn it off for now. It's done. It's like a switch on and off, right? And the result is this. Let's open the folder and see what happened. All these layers that I named, okay, were exported into the appropriate image folders. Sorry, image formats. So this is the hero banner. See, nice and big, exact size as I did it in Photoshop. This is a JPEG, right? This is the images that I had in the little areas. Okay, and these are all JPEGs as well, same size. Okay, this is the logo. Look at this. See the logo. It's white and transparent. Because if it's white on a white background, you can't even see it. But PNG is the only format that supports transparency. If I save this as a JPEG, it'd be just like a white block. You won't even see the logo. That's why you need PNG, because PNG saves transparency. Same as the social media icons. Although have a black background, otherwise they'd be transparent if there was no background. So transparency is PNG, and also simple colors like rectangles and footers are also PNG. And this, of course, is a JPEG. So lo and behold, I mean, this is an amazing stuff. Now, when you build your website, and I can't tell you how many students have thanked me in the past because this makes your job so much easier. You just dump this into your HTML now. You know the plan. You're gonna have a footer, a header, you're gonna have a section, you're gonna have like 3 columns. All you do is dump these images in and make your website. Of course, you have to do the HTML by hand, but that's part of the job. All right, so now one more thing I wanted to cover is text, because let's say this image here, I know it's repeated. Let's say this is, not there. What we have here is like a text field of some kind. So for that, I'm going to draw a text box. Okay, I'm just going to go open up my columns here. Click on this main. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw. I should do another. There we go. Text box. Okay, and make this text box smaller. I'm using Command Shift less than or comma just to make my text fit within my box here. Open up my character palette. I'll go with maybe 18 points. I'll keep this at 0. I got to reset this. It's just based on my last preference setting. I'll make it a little bigger just for visual purposes. Copy and paste and paste. And yes, I have a text box in Photoshop. And I wanted to show you how text boxes work because I'm sure you're going to use content in your websites as well. Alrighty. I'm going to change my view to my workspace, Essentials default. There we go. I'm going to double click on these here, just to keep my layers. And that just ended up in there. No problem. I'll just drag it to the bottom of this section here. In there. That's what I meant. There it is. Lorem ipsum, whatever. So there's your text box, right? And yeah, you can give it some more padding, some more space if you want. You can double click and you can definitely move within the parameters of your, padding. Okay, padding is something that you're gonna like cell padding. You're gonna have within the box. You're gonna have a little bit of space here, like margins and stuff, but it's called padding in your CSS. So your cell padding will be there. Either way, this is your text. And let's say you like this choice of font that you used. I do have this nice blue, whatever this hexacode is. It's 345388. I'm also using Myriad Pro. I could use a different font, like maybe some other web font that I have. Perhaps maybe I'll try, I don't know, Euro style regular. Okay. Or maybe some other font. Check with your fonts because there's some web fonts that you have to use from Google or some other fonts. Whichever way, You could, change this font later in CSS to a more compatible font. But let's say I do want this Euro style regular 20-point font in the same format, because I might do leading, tracking, kerning. I'll do some typography measures here that are important, and I want to be consistent and carry them throughout my design. So if that's the case, what you want to do in that case is select your text here, right? Or just make sure the box is selected. You don't necessarily, I think, have to have this highlighted. Just have the text layer selected. Go under type. It's actually under, oh yeah, I can't just have it highlighted like this. Don't have it like highlighted in terms of highlighted the text, just highlighted the layer that contains the text. All right. And then what you can do is you can copy CSS. And as you know, CSS stands for cascading style sheets. It'll copy the exact properties of the text box that's in Photoshop. Okay. So if you copy the CSS, and you're going to have, like, let's say, a huge website with lots of different texts and boxes and stuff, you can definitely do this from one section to another. Okay. Copy it's under layer, copy the CSS. You can do also SVG, copy the CSS. Okay. Like that. You can go to where your assets are right here. You're going to have to create a new file. Okay. Like a new, like an HTML file, or even like a nice text document. I'll do like a simple text edit document. That'll work. A new one. And here I'm going to hit Command or Control V. I'm going to paste the CSS that Photoshop built for me to match my styling of my text. So it's called Lorem Ipsum because that's the title of my thing. I can rename this based on my things. But look at this. Just to zoom in slowly here. Font size 20. Font Euro style, the one I showed you earlier. RGB equivalent hexacode. Line height 1.2 EM. Position absolute. Left, top, width, Z index 20. So it gives me all these different parameters for my CSS, which means I can save this now. Okay. I can call this my, CSS text, right? I can have everything there. And I can build more than one library. I'm losing my voice now. I'll say this on the desktop. I can have another one here. As many as you need. You put them all under one document. Oh, excuse me. And then that'll be exported. So not only have the images, but you have everything else exported in your folder. Sorry, guys, I gotta take a little break here. 1 second. One second here. Oh. Okay, I think I've cleared my throat a bit. It's good that I at least I covered most of the lessons, so that's great. So at least I went this far with no interruption. It was bound to happen eventually because I'm straining my throat. But we're almost done. Just hang in there. So this was very important, the last part, because not only we're able to export all the graphics, we're also able to save the CSS into HTML for our text as well. And everything that I covered in this lesson here is all within these files. What I'm going to do is update this file with the current file, so you have everything kind of there for you on Blackboard as an example. So once I'm done this lesson, I'm just going to save this as a local file, okay, and upload it so you can see how this is done. And the example that you have there right now that resides should be very similar to this. The difference is I think I did like a band website back then. So if you go here, this is the one here, okay? So tell you what, I'm just gonna replace this one with the new one. So let's go to edit. I'm gonna go to replace. Go to the desktop. Okay, there you go. So you have like a, a good example of how I did this. Better updated example, okay? All right, so that's the one I just did. And you have another example of generating website assets, mockup, and design with another, the band website I did in another scenario. And everything is there for you to kind of see as far as the examples concerned, okay? And I'll even upload the assets here as well. I think I have to compress them first, though. These are the image assets that are generated with the CSS file. Oh, there's a CSS file. So this is where I had my coughing spurt. Okay, so this is the CSS file, and these are all the assets. So I'm just going to right-click, compress, and I'm going to just upload this as well, so it's together. All right, so that's that. You don't really need this. This is just extra. It's another example, but this is the one that you need for today's lesson. Last week we covered. So far as us being on the schedule here, we're definitely doing well. We're actually even I think one lesson ahead, or so half a lesson ahead. So that's great. So we're doing really well with that. We're done for today's lesson. So I hope that was very inspiring and insightful and helpful for you. You can start working on your Photoshop website now, and maybe integrate whatever you're doing in your HTML. Start doing the mock-up here. In theory, realistically speaking, you're going to be doing this primarily. So you'll see next semester when we do the UX class, you're going to be doing prototyping there as well, using like XD and Figma and other popular programs. And of course, we're going to consider Photoshop for other things. But you will definitely do the design first, like sketches and thumbnails and concepts. And then once that's approved, then you build a website. You don't just build a website from scratch or from the blue. I mean, you can. I've done stuff like that before using, WordPress web templates and websites and stuff. But it's like a big, client, and it's a serious job. You're going to have to consider these steps because approvals and stuff go a long way, like a blueprint of building a house. That's exactly what it takes, okay? So having said all that, I'm going to see if you guys are still there for me, and then we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop the recording. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next class, okay? Have a good night, and take care.
Thank you. Good night. Good night, everyone.